Hi Marco.
Hello, ça va? Ça va bien?
Ça va bien, merci. Thank you.
De rien.
You've just released yesterday your first studio album with the Aristocrats, Caballeros. What song have you composed inside and what were your main inspirations for the songs?
Okay, well, my contributions for that album were a song called Stupid 7. The second song was called ZZ Top, strange name. And the third song was called Pressure Relief. So the inspiration behind the first song, Stupid 7, is because the riff that I purposely didn't plan to be in 7/8 turned out to be 7, which is usually a signature which is like so common in odd meters, the most common odd meter kind of time signature. And I thought, like, you've got to be kidding me. I kind of purposely didn't want to write in 7, but the riff turned out to sound good in 7. So I thought, like, Stupid 7. And there it was. That was really the story behind that kind of song, but it has like, this kind of more like, punk rock kind of drive to it. So I've kind of, based it on that, and of course inserted other time signatures too, to then have now to relearn them, to figure out, oh my goodness, it's kind of, a lot of stuff going on there. So now for the tour, I have to kind of revisit the whole shit. Anyhow, but that was like, pretty much the story about Stupid 7. It's like, a lot of intricate kind of, little things going on and more like in a rock, punkish kind of vibe. Now for ZZ Top, it started off with the main riff, which reminded me sort of like of a ZZ Top kind of riff. And I didn't have a title for the song, so I called it basically ZZ Top, the way it sounded like. But it also has like, this one, picking riff, which kind of, changes the mood a little bit, so it kind of, always fluctuates between, this more like, darkish rock mood and then going into the more ZZ Top-ish kind of riff. So that was the inspiration. It's more like a straightforward rock tune. And Pressure Relief is, that's a very delicate tune. That really it's really all about aura and about, the texture and about the vibe. So I really basically was completely going for that whole thing to create something really that is in ease and has like, a beautiful structure. It should kind of, after all the madness on the record or in between kind of, give a little space, little beauty, relax. And I think I wrote this song actually after landing once actually with a plane, and we got, a lot of people got sick on the tour, and I remember my sinuses were closed and everything, and I couldn't do really pressure relief on the plane. I remember that because, everybody had this kind of cold or whatever, and I called it, after the tour was over, Pressure Relief. So these are really the stories behind these titles.
How would you describe the evolution of the whole band of the Aristocrats through the albums?
Well, the first album was very, how do you say, like almost juvenile a little bit for us, because we just started to go and play together. And so we didn't know each other too well from the chemistry. So basically as this trio. So we each wrote these songs and kind of, still figured out, how we would sound as the band, how to form the sound. And it was the first album more like a fusion-esque record. Sort of gotta say that, it's like, a few composed parts as well, but it was still kind of, about to find who we really are together. The second album, though, like Culture Clash, that's when we already toured. We already knew where we're at. There was a lot of good energy, really, really, really cool. I think, that is a good album. Culture Clash is a good album to listen to, I think. And on Culture Clash, the thing was that, how it is maybe sometimes, when you write in the studio and you play in the studio and then you bring it, and then you perform it live, and you think like after half a year into the tour, it would be interesting to capture how the songs would sound now after having them play for a while. And so that's when we released the Culture Clash live DVD, and CD, so you can compare a little bit. It's great to see, where this kind of moves in the directions, you know, and how things change up with audience in between and with, you know, playing the songs for a while. It doesn't mean that they have to be necessarily better, but they become different, right? You know, the more you play them. So with this album now, Tres Caballeros, we basically wrote like really, how to say, like, you know, almost like very, you know, established songs to go in the studio with. It was like, you know, making, you know, a song-orientated album, I would almost say. And what we did here is, you know, before we started recording in the studio, we played actually a few shows live already to develop the songs and see how we would kind of communicate, you know, these songs with the audience. So we already kind of went then into the studio to go in with the live experience and kind of translate the songs. So yeah, as you can see, like those 3 albums have like different angles, and yeah, very happy about, you know, how they turned out. You know, if there's room to develop, then that's, you know, what pretty much music is all about, and or art or anything you like, passion.
What does the Aristocrats bring you as a drummer?
Well, it's the Aristocrats is not so much about only or about like just being a drummer, because what we do there is we all bring songs to the table, so we all write and play. And for example, on the new album, there are a lot of things, you know, I played like as overdubs as well, like a piano thing here and there, or a little kind of other guitar line or something. Sorry?
You play the piano?
Yeah, on a few. Well, on my songs, I definitely do.
Okay.
Yeah. So and a few other things, you know, overdubs and stuff. It's more like, you know, that we work as a producer team. You know. You know, it doesn't really matter who plays, like it's just focused on this one instrument, only that we kind of play it live in this construction or constellation. But, you know, so the Aristocrats really work like as, well, 3 composers, 3 producers to then go into the studio, and each of us, you know, produces also the songs that we write. So we really take turns. And that's what really Aristocrats are all about. You know, of course, you know, play the main roles are guitars, bass, and drums. Then, you know, the people will see us on stage with mainly. But it's not so much the thinking about like what can we do, you know, to feature our separate instruments. It's really just about like how can we make the sound cool and how can we have fun on stage.
You will be a part of the J4 Experience Camp, starring Joe Satriani, Guthrie Govan, Tosin Abazi and Mike Kennedy. What will be exactly your role as a drummer in this camp? And what do you expect from those days in Cambria?
Well, that's a good question. I'm going to be surprised too. I don't know yet. Because mainly it started as a guitar camp. And I'm, of course, playing with Joe and then with the Aristocrats. But since it's G4, it's mainly about guitar. So I basically kind of, you know, I'm just there, and it's the start of our tour as well. Yeah. And, you know, so we're using this, you know, to play, you know, the songs, you know, in front of the audience and kind of, you know, do things. And I know, you know, that I'm going to do like a few little drum things there, here and there as well, even though it's a guitar camp. Certain people asked if I would do like, you know, some drum instructions as well. Well, since I'm already there, I might as well, you know, hang around and kind of, you know, have fun, you know, and explain something if somebody likes to know something or whatever, you know. And some people were asking about it, so I thought, like, why not? You know, let's have some fun and share and have a good time in Cambria. This is what it's pretty much, you know, I guess, all about. You know, it's not about, well, it is about instructions, I guess, too, you know, but it's mainly also about having people interact and kind of share experiences, you know. I guess this is how I really like to see it, you know. Yeah.
You've recorded in January the new album Shockwave Supernova with Joe Satriani, and it's going to be released in July 24. After many years of touring, Joe wanted you to play the drums on this album. What have you brought personally in there?
That's a good question, because we played before with Joe actually for 2 years on the road. Yeah. And that was right after his previous album was done, which was called Unstoppable Momentum.
Unstoppable Momentum, yeah.
And so we played all these songs, you know, and then there were like 4 songs still from the recording sessions of Unstoppable Momentum, which were not released, which are part of this new album actually as well. But we then, as a band, recorded whole new songs that Joe started writing, and we basically played them in the studio, and which was really cool about it was that Joe wanted to give us freedom. So we really played what we felt was right. It was a very, very, very pleasant recording session. It was like really Joe giving us the structures and going like, do your thing, let's make something out of this as a band, basically like the band sound. Yeah. And really, really nice. We kind of, the recording sessions went really easy going. We recorded a few takes for each song, and then kind of chose, best parts or, how we would kind of, approach this. Mm-hmm. And, man, that was really joyful. So, it was like really hardly a non-restricted or like, very, open-minded recording session, with a lot of spark in it. Yeah.
And what were the easiest and the most difficult parts to record for Shockwave Supernova?
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of that because everything really went with ease. Everything really went with like a lot of ease, and This is a question that I'm probably not unable to answer because I guess because we played with the band already on the road, we were sort of locked. It really sounded natural, and there was like hardly any moment where we thought like, let's see what we're gonna do with it. It really felt great. And here's one thing though that I like to say, which made me really happy, was that when we started the recording sessions, you know how it is, when you record like multiple takes and then, you make a decision, what to do. And especially like, the first take, or the first track on the album, you think like, okay, let's just experiment with it. Yeah. And then, probably later after the recording sessions, we revisit maybe like, the first few tunes and record them because, we got more locked or something during the sessions. Yeah. And what really happened there was that on the first day, during setup, where we're not even planning to record, just setting up, just doing sound check, we tried one song and played a few takes, and it happened that the first take of the first day of recording sessions, after the sound check, ended up being the first track we also used on the album. Or I'm not sure if it's the first track on the album, but it got used. So basically, the first take of the first song we recorded was a winner as well. Okay. Was recorded and made it on the record. That's something I'm really happy about. This doesn't happen so often, you know what I mean?
What did you listen from Joe before you started playing with him?
What I knew of him, I knew a lot of Joe's albums. I was absolutely aware of Not of This Earth, which is a cool album because it has like a lot of diversity. Really cool things, And of course, Surfing with the Alien, Flying in the Blue Dream. I knew Time Machine. I knew The Extremist. I knew a few of his things. And I really like how Joe works as a guitar player, because he makes things very accessible, has also some diversity, also some intricate stuff, but it's always very musical. It's always focused, rather than on the shredding factor, it's focused on the listening factor. And I like that.
And a lot of CDs from Joe. Is there a song you would like to play from?
Yes, Not of This Earth.
Not of This Earth.
The very first song.
You will?
Yeah, I like that. But, I would like to play that. I would like to play that. It's not that we're gonna play it, but we rehearsed it actually once, and I like that song because it has this cool groove to it, and it's just like a little bit, Yeah. It's a bit experimental even. I like that one. Yeah.
You've recently released a studio album, Celebration, in which you performed all instruments like you did for your previous record, Ips. What was your artistic process for this record?
Okay. Well, Celebration, this is I think my 14th solo album or something. Ooh. So, and when I'm at home, or when I record in the studio, I learned how to play other instruments. So I play, multiple instruments, you can say. And to me, and music is a thing. Well, see, I can't do anything else. I can't even cook a proper meal, but I can maybe play a few things music-wise. But no, it's you know, a celebration was it takes you kind of on a journey through some very, you know, rock stuff. It has like, you know, some very hardcore kind of things going on, but then also like, you know, some very kind of, you know, spacious, like, you know, almost like soundtrack-like moments. And again, it's all about the vibe, you know, but this album I'm actually very happy about. It's one of these things, you know, where usually you go back to albums and think like, what could I have done better? Or, you know, how sometimes it is. You kind of look back at certain things you do and think like, that could have been done this, that could have been done that. But there are a few albums that I did where I thought, like, hey, this is actually really cool. I still can listen to it and I won't change a thing. And Celebration was one of these albums. Everything went like really well, like, you know, from, you know, the songs how I wanted them to sound like, from the vibe. And yeah, so there you go. That was it. It was like all of a sudden done, and the mission was clear, and everything came together nicely. I hope that people will listen to it a little more. It's great, you know, that you asked about it. Pick up Celebration.
How do you define your personal style?
Oh, I don't know. You have to tell me that, because... But you know, I'm interested. Let's put it that way. I think I'm interested in many different ways. You know, so because when I listen to music, I think, you know, my influences are diverse as well. You know, some of my favorite bands are Queen, Frank Zappa. You know, but also I listen to Ryuichi Sakamoto, or to Slayer, or to Prince. You know, you name it. It's like, you know, a lot of diversity that I like, and I believe that if you do something that you feel an energy like in music, that you automatically, logically can translate it. And so no matter if it's hardcore, you know, if you listen like, or if you listen to FX Twin or Kraftwerk, or, you know, or like, you know, some rock kind of things, you know, it's like I have it all there somehow. So it's you know, it just, I guess, you know, that, yeah, how can I describe myself there? You know, it's just being, yeah, I don't know, you know, listening to all sorts of kind of things and kind of feeling it, but then kind of translating it with your own style. Like, you would be surprised if you see probably like, you know, my music selection, or when I buy something, you'll find anything from Van Halen, you know, to Kraftwerk, you know. But it is somehow, it's somewhat related. It's somewhat related because all these guys, you know, do something like really with pure and honest energy, you know, and you can feel it. And if you feel it, and you can, you know, you can automatically understand it, I believe. And yeah, that's when you listen, for example, to an album like Celebration. That's why there's like so many, you know, things, you know, in it. Like, or Frank Zappa, he was a good example, wasn't he? Frank Zappa's, you know, a big hero of a lot of musicians, I guess, you know. And he combined it pretty good. That's a good thing. Using, you know, all the things that you like, you know, no matter if it was classical, rock, or electronic, you know, or avant-garde, or out, or like really extreme compositions, going certain ways that nobody has done before, or that, you know, you want to explore. Yeah, I kind of like it when people, you know, don't know how to put a certain artist because it's new. I think, you know, this is like, you know, very special, because how people always want to compare. They listen to your album and think like, oh, this sounds like this, or that sounds like this, because they have to put it, you know, just, you know, this is how the brain works. It's like, you know, you need something to compare first before you can make up your mind to kind of define, go like, shit, you know, this is actually really unique. But I like uniqueness in music. And like I said, I hope, you know, that people can find it in Celebration, you know, and kind of see like, you know, whoa, this is kind of cool, or something, you know. That always is an honor when that happens, you know.
For this one, I think you can do better than Brian. Can you say a few words in French?
Oh, ça va, je m'appelle Marco, je suis un batteur avec les baguettes.
Les baguettes?
Les baguettes, yeah, sont ici. Et Monsieur le Rock est malade, il est au lit, il a la grippe. Parce qu'il fume une cigarette. No, I don't know. I got it. But I used to have a girlfriend in France. I used to, yeah. And so, So I was actually on and off in Paris, actually Place de la Nation. So that's where I was actually kind of based for a while. And I also had a place in London, so I would always kind of, pick her up in France, stay there for a bit, and then we moved to London, a little bit. But I still have a lot of people in France, and I love this country, and I'm always happy to go back and play.
Vishal Pirzada from Pakistan. How is it working with Joe Satriani? How is he as a musician when it comes to rehearsals? Is he strict?
No. You know what? Actually, working with Joe, the way I experience it, is actually a very, very musical and open-minded way. I can only repeat that, like I said earlier in the studio, as in the studio sessions. He's very much welcoming what you bring to the table. Yeah. So he just really gives you, even in the older songs, a lot of freedom and just lets you do your thing, and then he just goes like, I like that, and on and off he would kind of say like, okay, well, we should kind of, go into this direction, but he never restricts you. And that's a good thing. I think that's a talent to have as a musician, to kind of listen, what are these guys doing in the band, and then just letting them do their thing and be happy about it. That's very cool. So working with him is a very, very musical procedure, And he knows exactly what he wants, but he lets you live in it. And that's good, So I only have really, really positive things to say about that.
SkippyGirl from Australia. You've performed in so many venues around the world for so many bands. Do you have a preference for the size of the audience you play for? And how did you celebrate the release of Tres Caballeros? What did you do?
Okay. First question about the venues. It's not really the size of the audience, it's more the sound of the venue that matters. Because if you feel comfortable and you can, play freely with your instrument, that's what matters. That's what matters. Then you can do anything and kind of feel comfortable. So to me, that is something that is very important, having a good sound on stage, preferably with a venue actually as well, and you feel that, there's like then automatically connections with the audience happen, and also with the band members.
Yeah.
What was the second question again?
How did you celebrate the release of the Tres Caballeros album?
Oh, it just got released today, didn't it?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Oh, okay.
Yesterday.
I didn't celebrate anything with it. I celebrated by preparing the songs for the tour again, that we kind of, packing up gear and kind of, getting ready, listening to the tunes again, and, and we start rehearsing in 2 days. That was the celebration. But, when we're all together, the three of us, like the day after tomorrow, I'm sure we're going to have 1 or 2 drinks.
Yeah. Wes from the UK. What album would you recommend guitarists should listen to for new rhythmic ideas from a drummer's perspective?
Oh, for new rhythmic ideas from a drummer perspective. For guitar players.
For guitar players, yeah.
You mean more like, stuff like, I guess he means, pretty much also what I listen to, or kind of stuff, that I basically like music influences, basically, I guess. Oh my goodness. You know what? I think, Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen is a great guitar player. If you listen to albums like Fair Warning, that is so cool. I just listened to it today, actually, again, and thought like, man, what a cool thing, how great they are locked, how great the brothers are playing together, Eddie and Alex. There you go. It's guitar player and drummer. And I think they even swapped instruments when they were like, kids, right? They were playing both instruments. That's like really cool. And other than that, if you're a guitar player or if you want to kind of, get rhythmical influences in music, I think, listening to Frank Zappa and learning some of his music is never a bad idea. That's always actually pretty cool. Man, Led Zeppelin, overall, great. Just, ideas-wise, and, just how disciplined, the songs were written, and just, how much force and interaction they have, no matter what happens, there was like always something really cool about. Guitar player-wise, for great ideas, Brian May, guitar orchestrations and Queen. If you listen to songs like The Millionaire Waltz or something, it's ridiculously great. It's really, really, really nice, really well done. So that's something I always recommend. And there's so many. I mean, look, I'm sure I'm forgetting someone here right now, but this is what just came to mind right now,
And finally, Brad from France, have you ever played on Joe's guitars? What do you think about it, and what is your favorite?
From Joe's guitars?
From Joe's guitars.
Ah! That's a good question, because I remember when we were recording, and Joe knows I play guitar, and I always bring my guitar on the road, and so we always, share our guitar stories and stuff like that. So, at the studio, he brought some of his guitars, also his old relic guitars. And, I played a few, and every day he would bring, like, something else, something new, and goes like, hey, Marco, check this out, and check out this guitar and that. And I like a few of his guitars. Well, look, he has also some relic guitars he gave me, and there were great ones, like, a pretty good Telly from the 50s he brought over, which was fantastic, and it felt really good. He has, like, a few good Gibsons and Strats, It's, it's hard to pick a favorite then, But I guess, what Brett means is also, like, probably Joe's signature guitars, He has, like, a few of his signature guitars. And Joe gave me one which was really cool. It was like one that was made of chrome. It looked like very chrome-like.
Yeah.
But it played nice. But here's the thing that I can give to Brad. It's like one of those things, because every guitar has a soul of itself, right? Doesn't it? You sometimes pick up a guitar that looks great and it maybe doesn't play that great, but on and off you just take this guitar and it connects with you immediately, right? You know what I mean? And everybody has that. And so it's not like that I would kind of say or give Brett the advice or go like, look, there's like this one magic guitar that Joe has in his collection. It's not, I think, I mean, there are a few, but the ones that I played that stuck in mind, like I just mentioned, So obviously, the companies are interested in making good guitars so we can play them and they sound good,
Okay, then thank you, Marco, for having answered my questions. I leave the final word for you.
Well, the final word would be play music with ultimate passion and enjoy. And also, I would be happy to see you guys actually on either way the Joe Satriani tour and the Aristocrats tours. Have fun with us. Come out there. And, well, since we talked about it, my new album Celebration, buy it. No, but these are the things that are just, out and fresh right now. So enjoy that and enjoy playing music and enjoy listening to music. It's a great thing to, live in a good universe.
Thank you, Marco.
You're very welcome.